You to the daily news analysis for 16th of April 2025 with me Jatin Verma. In today's news analysis, we are going to talk about India Justice Report 2025. What does the report say on the presence of women, on the recruitment of women in the police forces of various states? How much is the per capita expenditure, national per capita expenditure on judiciary? How much is the national per capita expenditure on NALSA type of bodies? This is what the India Justice Report 2025 talks about. So this can be a very important base for UPSC mains when it comes to writing any answer on the police reforms, writing any answers on the judicial reforms. And in the same article, with regard to the same article, India Justice Report, one of the former justices of India, judges of India, Justice Madan B. Lokar says that extradition of people like Mehul Choksi, Nirav Modi and Sanjeev Bhandari is not happening or is difficult to happen because the condition in the prisons is not very much satisfactory for the courts in the UK and other countries to extradite these people to India. What Mehul Choksi type people do is they take the refuge under the shelter, they take the excuse that in India there is a danger to their life. They might be tortured in the prison, in the Indian jails. So many people have already died in the Indian jails who were extradited from the foreign countries. So that is why extradition's tough till conditions improve in the prisons. Until and unless jail reforms, prison reforms are done, the extradition of people like Mehul Choksi, etc. seems to be difficult. This is what the former Justice of India is saying. Now we are going to talk about other news articles also. Supreme Court criticizes Allahabad High Court. It says that what is happening in this High Court, Allahabad High Court, the largest High Court of the country and one of the oldest High Court of the country, is witnessing a phenomena where insensitivity towards women is being observed. The same High Court where Justice Mishra a few days back on March 17 had given remarks on the POCSO Act, on a case under POCSO Act where a minor girl's string of the pajama was being pulled up by the rogue elements, and justice said that this does not tantamount to the Justice Mishra, Judge Mishra of Allahabad High Court had said that this does not tantamount to the intention to rape. Today we are going to differentiate between outraging the modesty of a woman and the intent of rape. Section 376 and section 354 of IPC. What is the difference between two? Why judges label every act of molestation, intention to rape as just outraging the modesty of women? Because it attracts a lesser punishment. Likewise, we are going to talk about the other news articles also. What's happening in this High Court? Supreme Court frowns upon the repeated remarks on women, repeated remarks on Allahabad High Court. So these news clippings are of today only, in the sense that they have been taken from Indian Express, The Hindu, and we refer to all the editions of the Hindu newspaper. Okay, whatever news article is there, important, nationally important, we incorporate that. So this rest assured about the editorials that are going to be covered right now. Coming to the most important information about today, in this today's news analysis, All India Open Prelims Mock Test 3 is going to happen on 20th of April. This will be in online as well as offline mode, and the medium will be both English and Hindi. So the centers are Karol Bagh, Patna, Prayagraj, Indore, Jaipur. Now we are available at Patna also, Indore and Jaipur also. So offline centers, this test will be held at all these offline centers of PW only IAS, right? Medium will be English and Hindi. So go for this prelims mock test to have an idea about the simulation, to have an idea about the real hand UPSC exam scenario, right? So this is something you can gain from. The timings are given 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. The timings are similar to the official UPSC exam, and for CSAT paper 2, 2:30 p.m. till 4:30 p.m. the exam will be held. Okay, so this is for prelims 2025 aspirants to get the real hand experience of the UPSC quality of questions. Now moving to the first news article, India Justice Report. First thing that comes to mind is, who prepares the India Justice Report? Is it by Ministry of Home Affairs? Is it by National Crime Records Bureau, which comes under Ministry of Home Affairs? No, it's by Tata Trust and supported by several civil society organizations. Okay, so it's a private initiative or NGO initiative. India Justice Report is known for its quality analysis, known for its quality data findings. So it reports on the performance of the states on these four pillars: police, judiciary, prisons, and legal aid. Okay, before we talk about the basics, let's have a look at the headings. You will get a fair idea as to how much of a fodder material you can extract for your preliminary exam, or mains exam, basically, for writing a good answer. I have incorporated some related topic section also as to what can be the other areas triggered by the India Justice Report from which UPSC can ask questions. So let's have a look at it. So first thing first, overcrowded prisons. The report, the India Justice Report, says that Uttar Pradesh has the most overcrowded prisons, adding that more than half of the High Court judges are missing in the state. So Uttar Pradesh is lacking in the number of judges also. That is why we say that pendency of cases is increasing. A lot of other stuff is happening, right? So Uttar Pradesh has the most overcrowded prisons. Number one, under trials. 91% of Delhi's prison population consisted of under trials. So what has the Supreme Court done? Let me give you the points from my side also. Section 436A of IPC talks about the release of under trials. If an under trial whose case is pending and pending and pending is not witnessing the conclusion of the case, if he has completed half the sentence, if any under trial has already completed half the sentence, he should be released on the grounds that already half the sentence he has completed. Okay, merely because he was not able to file any surety bond or bond money he does not have. It's a poor under trial and already half the sentence has been completed. So benefit of doubt should be given to that person, provided he has good conduct. Okay, he has shown good conduct while in jail. So these type of measures have been taken. Supreme Court said that section 436 is very scantily used. Why are we not using it to release the poor under trials who are not able to furnish bond? So this can be one of the ways to remedy the situation highlighted by India Justice Report of 2025, guys. It is brought out by Tata Institute. Okay, so just remember this. This can be a prelims question, and for mains you have got this data and how to decongest our prisons. It can be one of the questions, how to decongest our jails. Then under trials, 91% of Delhi's prison population consisted of under trials. Now, women in police, Bihar has the highest share of women in state police, but none of these states and UTs has been able to recruit the designated percentage of women in their police force, the percentage for which they have kept the reservation, their own reserved quota they are not able to meet. For example, certain states have kept 20% vacancies in the police force will be going to women, but they are not able to recruit 20%. So that is the problem with the women recruitment. Why the women recruitment is important? Sometimes a women victim goes to police station for help and she is raped again by the male members of the police force. So the presence of women help desk, the mandatory women help desk, the CCTV cameras, all these things are necessary to instill a sense of confidence in the minds of women victims who happen to visit prisons, who happen to visit police stations for help, and in return they get hell. So that is why Bihar has the highest. Not a single state or UT has met their own reserved quotas for women in the police. Then women help desk, nearly 3 in 10 police stations in India, overall India, they do not have women related help desks. Okay, so we talk about the Prakash Singh guidelines, Vishakha guidelines, but on ground, the ground reality is totally different. That only 10 police station, not 3 in 10. That means only 30% of the police stations have women related help desks. This is the state of affairs after Nirbhaya rape case, RJ Kar rape case, we get the sensational matters do not really relate to or do not automatically lead to the sensitivity at the ground level. What has been done since 2013's Nirbhaya rape case, 2012 December Nirbhaya rape case. So that is the ground reality now. And other points in the report are national per capita spend. See, the national per capita expenditure on the judiciary stands at rupees 182. This includes the salaries and pensions of the judges which are charged on the Consolidated Fund of India and state respectively. Okay, so I ask you a question here. The salaries and allowances of the judges of the High Court are charged on Consolidated Fund of India or Consolidated Fund of State. The pension of the judges of the High Court is charged on the Consolidated Fund of India, option A, or Consolidated Fund of State, option B. Please answer. Now see, this 182 rupees seems to be rosy. Rest of the figures are very low. Rupees 57, rupees 6, etc. Why is it so? Because it includes the hefty salaries of the judges, the perquisites that they get, the bungalow that they get. So the national per capita expenditure on judiciary stands at rupees 182, which is still less. Now, national per capita spend on prisons is rupees 57. On jails, how many people are languishing in jail? We are spending 57 rupees per person. That's the amount that we are spending on the persons in jail. Then national per capita spend on legal aid. We often talk about NALSA, National Legal State Service Authority, National Legal Services Authority, right? Then we talk about State Legal Services Authority. The overall spend is a meager rupees 6. No matter howsoever with a lot of fanfare, we are conducting national lok adalats, etc. But the actual ground reality says that only rupees 6 are being spent on legal aid for the poor people who cannot hire expensive lawyers, right? Then national per capita spend on police is at 1275 rupees, which is the highest among the 4 pillars. So the 4 pillars which are analyzed by the India Justice Report, these are the 4 pillars: judiciary, prisons, legal aid and police. Why 1275 rupees? Let me tell you the ground reality, the reality check here. Out of around 1,10,000 police personnel in Delhi Police, 70% of them are on VIP duty. And if you are spending 1275 rupees, that means most of it is going towards VIP security. It is not in the security of the people. Even though in the last few years PCRs, okay, women help desk, police booth have been, beat boxes have been set up, but most of the police force is aligned towards VIP security, security of politicians, security of judges, etc. So that is there. Now, no state in India spent more than 1% of its total annual expenditure on judiciary. Even though the backlog of cases is rising, there are very many problems in the judiciary. All India Judicial Service needs to be created to at least fulfill the vacancies at the lower levels of judiciary, the subordinate courts. So that is the need of the hour, considering the pendency of the cases. Now, this is one important thing here. Like we talk about hospital to bed ratio, okay, population to doctor ratio. Likewise, there is only one civil police personnel for 831 people, which is a good thing. Number is not bad, because we are not a police state to have more police people in the country. Okay, the good society is one which requires the least amount of policing. But surveillance, etc., is important considering the rising instances of crime and varied nature of crime. So these are the findings that you can use while writing the answers on any of the related topics. Now, torture in jail. People are tortured in jail. Third degree method is applied by Punjab police and various other police forces. Okay, third degree torture, etc. So to stop this, India is a signatory to United Nations Convention Against Torture, but India has not yet ratified it. Okay, but the other day I had analyzed one of the editorials in which we saw that how the police forces have been modernized, how the Ministry of Home Affairs has been ramping itself up by enactment of 4 new codes, Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita, etc. The revamping of the Indian legal system, criminal legal system, and civil legal system. So those kind of things are happening. The setting up of new branches in the Ministry of Home Affairs, then ramping up of central forensic science laboratories, so that the police forces do not have to resort to what? Third degree torture. Okay, there should be scientific methods of investigation. And recently in Delhi, the Home Minister had flagged around 25 forensic mobile vans, Toyota Innova, which were laced with the forensic equipment, and forensic force is being created separately to help the police in the investigation of the crime. These things are taking place to make India compliant with United Nations Convention Against Torture. Once India becomes fully compliant with all the requirements which require the forensic capability to investigate the crime, then only we would be able to ratify the convention. Signing a convention is like India has shown the intention that we want to be compliant with this. We don't want to, the police forces in India don't want to resort to third degree methods of extracting truth, for extracting truth out of the criminals. But it takes its own time. Right, so that is why police forces are being reformed, they are being modernized, their training, etc. needs to be done before we finally sign the United Nations Convention Against Torture. Then police reforms, Ribeiro Committee, National Police Commission, these are the other important areas which can be triggered by this appearance of this news article, India Justice Report. Then Prakash Singh Judgment, 2006 guidelines. These guidelines were very important. In this case, the Supreme Court said that independence of police needs to be protected. Okay, there should be separate state security commission, police establishment board should be there, so that police officers, the SHO, the Daroga level, the Chulbul Pandey level people, they should not be transferred at the mere whims and fancies of local MLAs, local politicians. Sometimes a mayor does the phone call and the SHO is transferred, the station house officer is transferred. That should not be the case. Independence of police is the prerequisite for independence of investigation, right? So then extradition of fugitive economic offenders. What is this topic? The honorable judge says that until and unless the conditions in the prison they improve, people who are who are the fugitives like Mehul Choksi, Nirav Modi, they have fled to the advanced nations like United Kingdoms and other countries where they are protected, because they take a plea there that in India prisons are very filthy, they are unsafe for the prisoners, they might get killed in the prison itself if they are deported back, if they are extradited to India. So our honorable former Supreme Court judge, Justice Madan B. Lokur, who retired in the last few years, he is saying that until and unless you improve the conditions in the prisons, until and unless you have the civic ways of extracting truth out of the criminals or accused people, until then the advanced countries like UK, etc., the European Union nations or the United States, they would not extradite these fugitive economic offenders like Mehul Choksi, then your Vijay Mallya and Sanjeev. There was one other guy. So they are not being extradited back to India, because they take the plea that there is a danger to their life if they will be deported back. So Sanjay Bhandari, I was talking about this guy, Sanjay Bhandari, he was a middleman in the defense equipment requirement, okay, defense procurement. Defense consultant Sanjay Bhandari wanted for tax evasion and money laundering in India. He said that due to unsafe conditions in the Tihar jail, Delhi, he should not be deported back to India. So Honorable Justice, who happens to be one of the panel members for Justice in India on United Nations, he says that extradition of people like Mehul Choksi, even though he has been arrested, even though Interpol has been requested by CBI and Enforcement Directorate to bring him back to India, but that doesn't seem to be easy, because these people, the fugitive economic offenders of India, they take the plea that there is a danger to their lives in India. Okay, so that is the crux of this article. Grounds for refusal. Justice Lokur stated that UK court refused the extradition based on the concerns of torture and the conditions of the Indian jails when we are spending ₹6 per prisoner. 6 rupees. Okay, even a chapati doesn't come, good chapati doesn't come in 6 rupees. The point is not that we should spend extravagantly on the meals and upkeep and maintenance of these prison inmates. Okay, the people who have who have been convicted of serious crimes. But the point is that as the country India advances, as we are talking about the $5 trillion economy, we need to be more civilized in the way we treat our prisoners. That is when our criminal legal system will get integrated with the Interpol. We will get some support for the extradition of these people into India. Right? So that is the only point here. Lack of assurances. He claimed that the UK court asked the Indian government for assurances about jail conditions 4 times, but received only wishy washy replies. So maybe the intent of the government was not to bring back Mehul Choksi and other people. That is why the CBI, when asked by the UK court that are you assuring this court of UK that you will take good care of this guy who is being extradited to India, they were giving evasive replies. So that is why he was not extradited. So what do we require? United Nations Convention Against Torture. We have already signed it. India is already a signatory to it. We need to implement this Convention Against Torture in letter and spirit, so as to instill a confidence in the minds of international judicial forums like UK courts that these people can be safely extradited to India because they are criminals. Nonetheless, they will be treated well. That is the only ground that Interpol will then accept the red herring notices by the agencies like CBI, Enforcement Directorate, etc. Okay, so that is the only point we need to work upon. Another worrying issue here is, now we are talking a lot about criminal justice today. One of the judges of the Supreme Court is irritated at the kind of remarks being given by the judges of the Allahabad High Court. Earlier, Justice Mishra said that pulling the string of pyjama of a minor girl aged 13 years does not tantamount to crime under POCSO Act, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act. It seeks to protect the children from the age group 0 to 18 years, the minors. But if you are making that girl sit on a bike and you are taking her under the culvert before you are stopped by the bypassers, and then you are beaten up by them, so does it not tantamount to the intention to rape? According to Justice Mishra, one of the judges of the Allahabad High Court, no. Taking a girl on a bike, pulling pulling the nada of her pajama, in Hindi word I'm using this just to make you understand the gravity of the situation, the insensitivity of a judge. According to Justice Mishra, this does not tantamount to the intent to rape, because she was not actually raped. Had these guys, these hooligans, not been stopped by the bypassers, they would have raped the girl. Only then Justice Mishra would have realized that the girl has actually been raped. These are judges. These are not the people who are watching any utopian or any imaginary, the 3D movie. No, it's a real society they give the judgments upon. They deal with hundreds of cases like this every day. But it takes them the wisdom of the skies, wisdom of the gods, to realize what is the intent to rape and what is not the intent to rape. That too, when the law explicitly states that any such intent tantamounts to crime. Okay, this is not the one case. There is another case that has recently appeared. That is why the Supreme Court flays Allahabad High Court for insensitive observation in orders. So what is the solution, Sarji? What is the solution according to you? What is the representation of women in judiciary? That is the answer. Okay, we have seen judges, we have seen CJI. One of the CJIs, Ranjan Gogoi, he molested a girl, a law intern, while being the judge of the Supreme Court. So this is not that surprising. This is not that shocking. The Justice Mishra is still, I would say, better than Justice Ranjan Gogoi, who himself molested a law intern by calling her to his residence, official residence. So this is the state of affairs, and Allahabad High Court is one of the oldest and largest constitutional courts in the country, having a legacy worth living, having its own legacy. Then also these type of instances are happening. Do our judges need to be trained? Do we need to select our judges better so that they are sensitive? Their gender sensitivity test should be taken so as to avoid these type of judgments. Okay, so Justice Ram Manohar Narayan Mishra concluded that groping a minor and breaking her pajama string does not add up to the grievous crime of attempted rape. So the punishment for attempted rape is more or less the same as, I have incorporated section 354 here, outraging the modesty of a woman. Okay, in India, outraging the modesty of a woman is a criminal offence under section 354 of IPC. The punishment for this offence is around 5 years. Okay, 1 to 5 years. But for raping or intent to rape, it is 7 years or 7 to 10 years. It shall not be less than 10 years for the rape. That is why judges sometimes they take a lackadaisical or they take a lenient approach that anyone who has committed the offense against a woman is punished not with intent to rape, because that has got a harsher punishment, rigorous imprisonment of 10 years. They punish such a perpetrator of crime with just outraging the modesty of a woman. Outraging the modesty of a woman is like a crime of pulling the dupatta or staring at a woman or saying some abusive words in front of a woman. But here physical abuse was about to happen. The string of the pajama was pulled, and that seems to be outraging the modesty of a woman to Justice Mishra. Come on, Justice Mishra, you should wake up. Good morning. Or you are maybe having a good night. Coming back here, sometimes these topics, they develop an anger in you, that the anger comes out in a manner of these comments. Pardon me for these things. Now, retail inflation eases to 3.34%, lowest since 2019. Retail inflation eased to 5.5 years. So what is retail inflation? The inflation that we witness, the actual price of the items that we witness at the nearby grocery store, or when we order things from the Blinkit. Okay, so retail inflation is the inflation that touches the common man. We are not talking about the goods being purchased from the wholesale godown, okay, warehouse. Here the prices might be cheaper. Why the warehouse level inflation? Why there is a lot of difference in a country like India between the warehouse level inflation and the shop level inflation, the retail shop level inflation? Because of logistical issues. Okay, the roads in India, the transportation facilities in India are not as good. So that is why warehouse level inflation, the warehouse level prices of the goods are less. Electricity, the storage of the goods at the shop level, the rental value of the shop is more than the rental value of the warehouse. So that is why the price increases when the goods are transported from the wholesale level to the retail level. Now the retail level inflation has eased to a 5.5 year low of 3.34%. as per the data released by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. Now I ask you a specific question here. Which is the body, which is the institution which releases the data? Even though that body comes under MOSPI, okay, but what is the specific name of the body which calculates this retail level inflation data? Consumer Price Index retail level is calculated by which institution in India? Okay, so now consumer food prices inflation data is from Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. Wholesale price inflation data is from Commerce Ministry. So WPI wholesale price index data is taken by Commerce Ministry. You should remember this. Consumer food price inflation data is by Center for CMIE, basically Center for Monitoring of Indian Economy. But this is not the name of the institution that I was asking you. That is a different institution. Now overall consumer food inflation price has come down to a low of 2.7%, a significant decrease from 3.75% in February. Okay, so rural inflation decreased to 3.25% from 3.79% in February, increased marginally to 3.43% from 3.32% in February. So this is how the things are going well. Now this is a good news for RBI also, which has recently had the second consecutive cut in the repo rate. RBI was risking itself, its reputation, when it gave more weightage to growth over the inflation. Okay, two consecutive repo rate cuts. Right after the new RBI governor took over, he basically staked his reputation as a governor who is pro inflation or who is pro growth. So he chose growth over it. RBI had implemented two consecutive repo rate cuts of 25 basis points. This indicates RBI is prioritizing growth over the inflation. So we had in the other day's class also, we had some conceptual part on this and discussion on this as to accommodative monetary policy stance. What is accommodative monetary policy? That policy, guys, which seeks to accommodate the concerns over the inflation to give impetus to growth. If the repo rate is cut, if the rate of interest is cut by RBI, that leads to percolation of money, that leads to easy availability of money for the borrowers. Borrowers like you and me might borrow for buying a car, or for buying FMCG goods, credit card, or for buying durable appliances like air conditioners, refrigerators. That gives a boost to the demand for Godrej, for Hitachi, for Daikin, for n number of brands, Samsung TV, etc., consumer durables. Okay, so those companies then borrow big ticket loans like 500 crore rupees for setting up a new manufacturing or assembly plant. So this leads to a two-pronged, the rate cut, the interest rate cut by RBI through its monetary policy leads to a double push to the demand and supply. Okay, on one hand, demand is being pulled up by making the loans easily available for people like you and me. And supply also is given a push because loans will now be, the big ticket loans will now be easily available. So let's have a look at the question that UPSC had asked in 2021. Which of the following is likely to be most inflationary in its effect? So now see the changing nature of questions here. Most inflationary. The judgment bias comes in here. What is your level of understanding? How clear are you with your concepts? Repayment of public debt. If government pays off the public debt, is it going to be more inflationary or most inflationary? Doubtful. Borrowing from the public to finance a budget deficit. Then, borrowing from the banks to finance a budget deficit. Creation of new money to finance a budget deficit. The answer is very easy. Okay, let me not give you that guess kind of a thing, how to make such, how to, even if you are groping in dark with regard to such questions, how can you arrive at the answer? See, more often than not, D is the answer to such judgment based questions where you are being asked most inflationary. Otherwise also, if you are conceptually clear, more money, additional money is being added into the system of Indian economy. So printing of new notes is going to be the most inflationary, right? And if you do not know anything about it, then D would most likely be the answer in such cases. So I'm not giving you any tukka maru strategy, any hunch strategy. This is the sure way to make sure that you answer correctly. No, it's just a way to that applies to this question, I would say. Disclaimer out there. Now 2023 question likewise of the similar nature. This is the longest question, so I'm not reading it out. Please read it yourself and attempt the question. Okay, answer the question. Are the births deaths being properly registered? Why does this matter? Proper registration of births and deaths matters because census of India has not been conducted for more than 10 years now. It's going to be 15 years. Okay, thanks to COVID, thanks to other excuses, legitimate or not so legitimate given by the government. So to arrive at a proper socio-economic policy, to make better policies, we need the data of actual number of people who are living, actual number of children, babies being born. What is infant mortality rate? How successful are the government's programs? So that is why Registrar General of India has been requesting, has been asking the private sector hospitals and government hospitals to report the instances of births and deaths at their level in a correct manner. So what is the modus operandi? What is the mode of operation? One by one, the circular by the Vital Statistics Division of the RGI. So Registrar General of India comes under Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, it has got a division which is called as Vital Statistics Division, VSD. So Vital Statistics means the statistics about the birth and death of the the births of the newborn and death of the oldies, okay, or the people who are dying in the hospitals. It needs to be corrected. It needs to be correctly reported to the government agencies for better policy making. Okay, states that the report states that the vital statistics report states that approximately 10% of the births and deaths are not being registered. However, it acknowledges that 90% of the births and death events are currently registered, indicating a significant progress towards universal registration. Why the progress has been visible? Because of these legal steps taken by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Legal framework: according to 2011 Registrar General of India report, the registration level for births was 82.4% and for deaths 66.4%. But now 10% are not being reported, 90% are being reported. Okay, Registration of Birth and Deaths Act 1969. So this is the statutory law. This is the statutory backing that is given to Registrar General of India for vital statistics report. Okay, amendments in 2023 makes the registration of all births and deaths mandatory. So private hospitals and government hospitals alike are duty bound to provide the data of births and deaths occurring at their respective levels. So amendment section 23 imposes fine also. Earlier the fine was ₹50, but fine for negligence in terms of not reporting the data on a real time basis has been increased up to ₹1,000 for every instance of such negligence, for every non-reporting of the birth and death taking place at their level. So the 2023 amendment to the Registration of Births and Deaths Act of 1969 mandates that the Registrar General of India shall maintain a database at the national level. How is it going to maintain the data at the national level? Chief registrars and registrars are obligated to share the information with the center according to 2024 amended act. So what happens is, imagine this is the central registration system that has been created by 2023 act. If there are let's say government hospitals, okay, this government hospital will act as a registrar. Okay, all the private hospitals in the area, let's say it is Fortis Hospital or any other hospital, Max Hospital, private, basically all the private hospitals are required to report the data of births and deaths to the public hospital, the government hospital located in their city. Okay, private hospitals, they will all report the data. Private hospital, all the hospitals in a particular city. Now this is a central registration system computer window. Let's assume this government hospital which acts as the registrar, which is newly in the new act which has been labeled as the registrar, is duty bound to upload all the data to the central registration system, which the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, which the Ministry of Home Affairs can see at the click of the mouse. Clear? Now this government hospital which acts as the chief registrar will submit the data or will upload the data for state level registrar, who is called as chief registrar, chief registrar's office. Okay, so this chief registrar's office is connected to the central level Registrar General of India at the central level. So government hospital, the CMHO, Chief Medical Health Officer, he is a responsible functionary, he is a gazetted officer. He is supposed to report whether the Fortis Hospital, private hospital, is providing the data within 30 days of the occurrence of any birth and death at the hospital level. So CMHO, government hospital registrar, government hospital will act as a registrar of data. It will upload the data at the central registration system. Private hospitals themselves directly, in certain cases when they are quite large, like Gangaram Hospital, like AIIMS Hospital, which is private, okay, which is government, sorry. So some of the private or semi-private or semi-government hospitals can directly upload the data. But more often private hospitals will not have their user ID and password to upload the data. So now I hope you know the context of the Birth and Registration Act, Registration of Birth and Death Act 1969, the import of the effect of the amendments brought about in 2023. What are the amendments? This new system of registration has been created, then fines and penalties have been increased. Okay, why the fines and penalties have been increased? As I said, the government is not having any authentic source of data for knowing the actual number of people living in India. For the purpose of feeding this data into national population register, electoral rolls, etc., the proper data of our population is needed, especially in the absence of non-conduct of the decennial census, the delay in the decadal census. Clear? So that is why this system has been created. Now these all the details I've mentioned here. Centers portal is their civil registration system. Digitally, all births and deaths in the country are to be recorded through the centers portal civil registration system, guys. Okay. Now some question can be asked on this thing. Health department, then panchayat department, then Directorate of Economics and Statistics in states like Bihar, they can directly upload the data. Panchayati Raj bodies can also directly upload the data for the births taking place at the primary health centers. Okay, so Arogya Mandirs as we call them. Now, government hospitals are entrusted with the responsibility of functioning as registrars. All this has been explained. Private hospitals are required to report births and deaths to within their jurisdiction to the registrar. Who is the registrar? The government hospital is the registrar. Clear? The RBD Act empowers the RGI to coordinate and unify the activities of chief registrars appointed by the state government. So, the entire hierarchy, chief registrar is within the domain of the state government. It reports to the registrar general at the central government level, who is placed under the Ministry of Home Affairs. Clear? All of them work under RBD Amended Act now, Act of 1969 as amended in 2023. Now, I hope you would be able to attempt any question when it comes on RBD Act. Now, single document for proof of birth effective October 2023, digital birth certificates became the sole document to prove the date of birth for various services including admission to educational institutions, government jobs, the cutoff age for UPSC included, right? Data integration, the data collected through the centralized portal will be used to update National Population Register, ration cards, property registration, electoral rolls. So all these data, all the updation to these sources will be possible through the digital birth certificate. Digitally generated birth certificate. Okay. Now, what is Vital Statistics of India report? Publication status, the report which contains the national level data on infant mortality, stillbirths. Number one, infant mortality, stillbirths and deaths has not been published since 2020. Even though some of the states have been publishing it. For example, Kerala here. Okay, then Mizoram was the only state to have published the report in 2023. Why this report is not being published? Why is it important? Look here. Used by the government for socio-economic planning. How many people are there? How many of them will be entitled to schemes like Indira Gandhi National Old Age Pension Scheme? Right? Then how many of them will be entitled to Pradhan Mantri Matritva Vandana Yojana? Because all this requires the birth, infant mortality, stillbirths, etc. What should be the allocation of funds to Ministry of Women and Child Development? Socio-economic planning requires this data, and data is not there. Okay, helps evaluate the effectiveness of various social sector programs. Services serves as the cornerstone of the public health system. If there is no data, how will government work basically, right? Now, so that is their state level reporting. Several states and UTs had published their reports up to 2022. Mizoram was the only state. Okay, the last published vital statistics report for Kerala was in 2021. So, what is the takeaway for prelims? Vital statistics reports are to be published by respective state governments whose data is integrated at the central level to come up with the report for India. Central level report has not come from after 2020. Okay, some of the states have published their respective reports, though it is the duty of the central government to integrate this data and come up with the national report. So this was all. Beware of child traffickers. Top court cautions parents. The Supreme Court in a judgment warned parents to be extremely vigilant against the gangs trafficking children for sexual exploitation. Okay, so forced labor, begging, etc. So what is happening is the Supreme Court has broadly mentioned about how the children are picked up, how the newborn babies are picked up from the hospitals itself, how they are trafficked from or kidnapped from the schools. So the parents are now being told that सवारी अपने सामान की खुद जिम्मेदार है. In English, people are themselves responsible for their luggage. Parents need to be vigilant. They need to follow the school bus. They need to stand outside the school so that their child is not lifted. And judges will be busy stashing cash. समझ रहे हो? तो मतलब दिक्कत क्या है? What is the problem here? The Supreme Court in a judgment warned parents to be extremely vigilant against gangs trafficking children for sexual exploitation, forced labor, begging, petty crimes, armed conflict and child marriage, and even camouflaging the sale of infants as inter-country adoption. Sometimes to import children, to basically deport children to the other country, what these criminal tracking network system, what they do is, what this child trafficking network does is it generates the fake documents that the child has been adopted from India to USA, for example. Okay, so now the parents are themselves responsible for safety of their children. Bench observation. Justice J.P. Pardiwala, with due respect, and R. Mahadevan highlighted the helplessness of child victims and their families, who are often poor and ill-equipped to deal with sophisticated child kidnapping rackets. Rackets, mode of operation. What is the modus operandi? These rackets use technology to share the information, photos and location of victims, and to transfer money. Hospital accountability. The court ruled that hospitals would face license suspension and legal action if the newborns were found missing and trafficked, emphasizing the hospital administration's responsibility to protect newborns. So there should be a proper security guard, ID card system should be there as to who is entering the NICU, newborn intensive care unit. Okay, so NICU, kind of the hospital ward where babies are born. Proper identification system should be there. A barricaded entry should be there. Security guard should be placed at every door of such ward in the hospital so as to prevent the trafficking of newborn babies. Okay, so this is what is the worrisome phenomena. Exploitation of juvenile justice system. Now I ask you a question here. The child adoption in India happens under which of the acts? Hindu, the Adoption Act is there, or some other act is also there? Please answer. Juvenile Justice Act or Hindu Maintenance and Adoption Act, kind of an act is there. Do look out for this piece of information. The court stated that the protection offered to minors in the juvenile justice system is being exploited by criminals as a safe haven for committing heinous crime. Directive to high courts. High courts across the country were directed to expedite the pending cases of child trafficking. So West Bengal has been found to be most notorious when it comes to child trafficking. Thanks to the adjoining border between Bangladesh and West Bengal, the deportation, the migration, or the transport of such children, girl child trafficked from West Bengal, becomes easier. Okay, so this was highlighted by the National Crime Records Bureau report of 3 or 4 consecutive years. So that is why the porous borders between these countries, which themselves do not have effective rule of law, also becomes a problem here. UPSC question: with reference to the adoption procedure in India, consider the following statements. Number 1, adoptions in India are governed only by Juvenile Justice Act. Number 2, Central Adoption Resource Agency. This is CARA. CARA is a statutory agency created under Juvenile Justice Act of 2015. Okay, it has a portal which is named as Caring's Portal. Caring's Portal for centralized adoption. Earlier, there used to be a phenomena where babies would be adopted based upon their looks. somebody who is having a not so fair complexion will be rejected. So the elite parents would get an upper hand, would get an edge over the not so elite parents in terms of adoption. It is called as Murphy baby syndrome. You remember that? I mean, I also haven't seen that ad, but Murphy was the name of the pressure cooker brand which used to feature a very good looking baby, and hence the syndrome, Murphy baby syndrome. So the child looking similar to the one postered on the Murphy brand cookers, or Murphy Richards, nowadays it is a brand for juicers, mixers and grinders, they used to feature a very good looking baby. That is why many parents are afflicted by this Murphy baby syndrome, in the sense that they want to adopt a baby looking similar to Murphy baby. Okay, so that is why this Murphy baby syndrome affects the adoption of children in India. The children who are good looking, they are adopted, and the children who are not so good looking, they are rejected. But this elite bias, this kind of a bias against children should not be there. That is why Caring's portal has been established to seamlessly, to basically make the process of adoption transparent in India. Read more about Caring's portal, that is your homework, and if any one of you can cite some of the details in the comment section, that will be good. My other question to you is, adoption, the regulation of adoption as a subject is given in which list? Union list, state list, concurrent list? Okay, Schedule 7, Article 246, this question relates to. Please Google it out, or Meta it out, or Gemini it out. So many portals are there to help you these days, the AI portals. But please answer these questions and internalize the information, because there will be no Gemini, there will be no Meta or no other data in the exam hall. IMD forecasts above normal monsoon thanks to no occurrence of El Nino phenomena. Okay, so El Nino, whenever El Nino year is there, the monsoon in India will not be that good. La Nina is good for India's monsoon. So IMD is forecasting above normal monsoon. There are a few terminologies related to geography. ENSO, El Nina, La Nino. Okay, southern oscillation. What are these? Find out the answer to these things. That is the purpose of incorporating this thing in the news analysis today. El Nino is not good for Indian monsoon. Oscillation. La Nina is good. Why is La Nina good? What is the connection with the Peru current? Please answer these questions in the comment section. Okay. Now, yes, Hindu Succession Act is also there apart from Juvenile Justice Act. Second consecutive year, if the forecast holds good, this will be the second consecutive year of above normal rainfall, following 8% more than average from June to September of the previous year. Margin of error can be there, etc., etc. But Eurasian snow cover, how does it affect? Let's have a look. Below normal Eurasian snow cover during the months of January to 2025, January to March 2025 is another positive factor. So when the snow cover is lesser, the monsoon is more. The rainfalls during the monsoon months are expected to be more, as there is an inverse relationship. Okay, so Eurasian snow cover, please remember this for prelims. Forecasting model, not that important. Parameters used, the April forecast uses 5 parameters, including the snow cover. Historical data suggested a 33% correlation. Another factor, ENSO conditions. Currently, ENSO conditions are neutral. Equatorial Pacific region conditions are neutral for Indian monsoon. So study about these 4-5 things and you get an answer to all these things. Okay, these are quite static in nature with regard to geography, so I'm not explaining them over here, otherwise it will become at least a half an hour lecture separately on this. So with this, I wrap up the session for today. The only expectation would be that you study the topics that are appearing. I, as a teacher, as a mentor who has been dealing with current affairs for quite a long time now, 8 to 9 years, can assure you that at least 33 to 35 questions will be, on a safer side, will be indirectly from this thing. Okay, not to sound too snobbish about it, that 33 questions will come from the daily news analysis, but if you are doing your own background coverage of the questions, etc., definitely you will be able to attempt somewhere around 25 questions from the current affairs itself. That is how much important the current affairs is, and it helps you revise your polity, your geography, your environment and ecology in a manner that you get to study a bit of everything. If you are a first timer, then also. If you are a second timer, then it is more applicable in your case, because you know the static portion. Sometimes you are working, you are in a job, and you are unable to give enough time to the static portion. So I make sure that the static, enough amount of static portion knowledge is incorporated in the PPTs that we provide, that you can quickly revise the static portion as well. So guys, with this I wrap up the session for today. See you again tomorrow, the same time, 8:15 a.m. here on this channel, PW Only IS English. The PDF of this news analysis will be shared on the Telegram channel. The link of the Telegram channel is given in the description box below. Thank you guys. Bye-bye. Have a good day. Thank you.